find a picture like a zombie or something. But I kind of want an animated GIF type of background so it's moving. But it makes these streams also, how do you call it? It makes the processing worse when you have a moving background, but it's whatever. Anyway, I'm derailing. Let me go ahead and press play on the video. I will be saying, I will, as a reminder, if you want to just say pause for me when you want the video to be paused.
Yeah.
And then that'll work. Anyway, bye-bye. Not bye-bye. Let me press the video. Shit.
I want my time back, or I'm reclaiming my time, and you get your time back. You're in full control over your portion of the cross exam, so maintain control over your portion of your cross exam. We did put together some clarification and clock grading rules. Let's avoid using those if possible, but if we have to, we can dip into some additional time that we set aside for that. The cross examination protocol: do not ask a bunch of questions during the other person's cross exam. If it's your cross exam, you're the one asking questions. The cross examinee is not asking a bunch of questions besides maybe short clarifying questions. So just don't waste a lot of time in that, right? If you have to clarify something, like if you have to clarify a term, it's usually pretty quick to define the term, right? So just be reasonable with your clarification time there. I prefer not to dip into the clarification and clock grading time, right? Interruption etiquette. If you do have to interrupt for clarification or something, say, may I interrupt? Do you mind if I jump in? May I provide input? Be polite about it. Remember, you guys are not enemies here. We're trying to have a productive debate. You're not trying to yell at each other or cuss each other out or anything. Let's be polite, right? Engage respectfully. Continuous interruptions or over talking may lead to the use of moderation tools to ensure fairness. The goal is to protect the speaking time of both the affirmative and negative. And I am going to strive to remain an unbiased moderator throughout the debate. It's my job to make sure I don't care who wins the debate and make sure it's moderated fairly, right? But let me know when you guys are ready. We'll go ahead and start the 10-minute timer for the first introduction, or the introduction for Sapphire Scribe, who is Hardlight Network on YouTube.
All right, yeah, I'm ready. Are you ready, Lola?
Cool. I'm starting your timer right now. You have 10 minutes.
Excellent. All right, so first I'd like to start off by defining deism as I'm arguing against it today. Deism believes in an impersonal God who created the universe and left it and does not sustain the universe. I'm not positively arguing for why God gives revelation or does miracles, but I'm actually arguing for why God sustains the universe, as deism rejects that God sustains the universe. First, I'd like to say that there are two ways that things are preserved. There are two ways that something can be preserved or kept from ceasing to exist: indirectly or accidentally.
Pause. I think I should tell you, if you clicked on the debate where it says church versus church, that actually had to scrap that, which is why the new title scrapped the title. These aren't Catholics and an Orthodox talking right now, because the video I clicked on, the thumbnail was inaccurate. I thought it was a Catholic versus Orthodox. It was that, but they were talking about premarital sex, and I didn't want to watch that type of debate because I don't think that's here or there. I leave that up to God. Really, don't know if the church should be talking about it. Although the churches can designate within their own framework, that's fine and dandy. So I switched it over to this just to let you know. I don't know if for people watching with like the title, I forgot to explain that. Anyway, go ahead. You said pause.
Yeah, deism, that can be a good one, because the interesting thing about deism is right away you want to go into epistemology, personal knowledge of this alleged God. How would they possibly have that? How would they give you an explanation?
And deism is like the absentee daddy God, right? Like God created and then left things.
Right. So what you want to point out right away is you want to go into epistemology, how we know things, what we know. How would they have any personal knowledge or revelation of this mystery God?
Right. How is it self-realized within you that this God exists if it never told you of its interactions? It's like panentheism, if I'm saying that one correctly. But with I think that actually is just panentheism, but with not. Well, no, it doesn't, because deism doesn't necessarily have to mean of the universe, because then at that point it is of itself. Which even that gets weird, because I question, like in panentheism and pantheism, whether they considered the idea of imagination also divinity, because if that's the case, whenever they say your God is imaginary, like that is also true, because it's part of reality, and if everything's about is experiencing that God, then the imagination is also valid, which gets weird. But everything else is at that point. It gets really weird. But anyway, I'm derailing.
Well, if you got pantheism, it's like one substance, mono.
Right. Yeah, it's just the one. So what I'm
So
getting at is
you have monism. So how, if you're going to try to argue from that position, think about this. You're stuck before you even get started. How are you making distinctions from the one substance? How are you defining yourself separate or distinct from all that is one? How can you even do that?
right. That's a good question. I wouldn't even know how to do all that. I had to look into that. I'll do that later.
Well, the point is that you can't. So when you're bringing that up with somebody, like you've got deists and pantheists around this community, right?
Right.
Both of those people. So the deist, you want to stay in epistemology. How do you know? How do you have revelation of this God? What's name? What is the name of this God? They're going to be barren as far as an answer there, and it's key. You can't really move forward without that. And then the pantheist, well, everything is one, or the one substance. So right away they're going to be in contradiction by making distinctions of the self, and the self making claims that are distinct from the one. It's similar to when you point out to say is it the Buddhist that claims nirvana, or the Hindu?
I think both claim a certain type of nirvana, but
Right.
it's Buddhist. It's the Buddhist that does it more.
Sure, yeah, it's going to be a certain heightened place.
Yeah.
So they also
Buddhist is nirvana. Just a real quick hit. The reincarnation is the other portion of what I think you're thinking of. I don't think those are one and the same thing. You could probably reach reincarnation or nirvana through reincarnation, but I'm unaware. I forgot how that works. It's been so while.
Well, yeah, there's variations in the dogmas, but there's a similarity in the monism that all is one, right? So when they talk about achieving nirvana, while at the same time saying it's all one, well, they're making a distinction of themselves apart from the one, achieving a different place apart from the one place. How are they making a distinction of self and a different place if it's all one? It's all one energy, one substance, one place. So right out of the gate, they have problems. And these aren't just surface level problems like, oh, we'll just overlook that and go on. There would be no need to continue the conversation until that problem is solved. And, that's one of the things that most people are missing, is the devastation of the position up front. They just want to
like to
grant
it, and then just argue about it. But like, if we don't solve this, how do we even know that that's accurate before we even go to over here, right? It's like trying to have the chicken and egg argument. At the end of the day, it really just comes down to that.
It's more like an analogy of somebody wants to race you, and you pop the hood of both the cars and they don't have an engine in their car, but they insist on you getting in the car and racing them. It's like, well, how are we going to do this? Your car doesn't have an engine. We got to get something in there before we get started. And the problem with it is most people think it's, they want to say it's like dishonest or bad faith or whatever they're going to claim, because they're not going to know how to handle that. But that really is all you need to do in most of these strange dogmas, these strange theologies, is question how they're making distinctions from the onset. And these monistic traditions don't work. And then, as we see here in the deism, you want to go to epistemology. They're talking about this alleged God they know nothing about except whatever, I guess, they're imagining, right?
Right. Which also gets into like this split category of science versus philosophy. And if you can't line those two up evenly, it's never going to work. What's it called? For philosophy, things are often proven for it metaphysically. Like the thought of it is enough for it to stand alone, while science would come along and be like, where's the empirical data for that metaphysical problem you have there? Like where's the observable, repeatable instance? But then again, science can't replicate like one-off situations as well. So that's
but that's not what science
demonstration.
Does. That's not even what science does, though. You wouldn't go into a philosophical question and apply science. It would be a category error, which is what the naturalist ends up doing, trying to do, or the secularist. This is why you want to point out that them bringing up science already assumes philosophies, right?
I would say it's a modern category error, but that's just my way of putting it. I think like back in the day, science back in the day used to mean knowledge, right? It literally means knowledge.
No, knowledge is philosophy, the love of wisdom.
Right.
The science is going to be the testing the natural world. So it's
I'm talking about, by definition, the original term science. It was gnosis. It is gnosis, which goes into knowing. And then somewhere along the lines,
the physical world.
Right. That the sciences got separated from physical and metaphysical. And like I said, until those can line up perfectly, no one's gonna get it accurate because it has to line up, and they can't line it up. It's separate categories right now. It's like it's like Democrat, Republican. Yeah, there's one, the wings of the eagle. Quite. That's just my. Go ahead. Yeah,
I'm not trying to disagree. Because, well, I mean, I'll let you know. What I'm saying is the science or physics and metaphysics are not separate; they're interconnected. You can't have physics without metaphysics, which is above or beyond the physical. You have when you're doing physical experiments in science, you rely on philosophies: uniformity in nature, identity over time, induction, and that the future will behave like the past. You bring those things into the science, metaphysical ideas, preconditions necessary, transcendental categories. All sorts of philosophy goes into science. When you try to bring science and challenge a philosophy by saying, oh, you're claiming this, prove it to me, show me in the natural world, that's when you get into category errors that needs to be pointed out. When people say demonstrate God, well, what are they actually asking for? A physical demonstration of an immaterial spiritual God? You've got to call them on that and say, what type of demonstration are you looking for? And then if they want physical proof, then you go into their transcendental categories, their assumptions, their presuppositions, their meaning, their value, their purpose, and say, how do you account for these things physically? None of these things are physically, yet you rely on them in speech, in your daily behavior and activity, in this very conversation.
Right, yeah, because you always just get them at the word.
So don't think of metaphysics and physics or science as separate or in opposition to one another. They're interconnected. But the science
I don't think that. I get what you're saying. You're actually saying what I'm trying to say a lot nicer, to be honest. I think we're actually both in agreement. It's just that what you're saying is a cleaner way of what I'm thinking in my head. Let's put it that way. So we're actually in the same boat. Okay. Deflect, deny, depose.
Now, is that an atheist right there?
I think Elonie is a atheist. I forget.
What is you see? I mean, I don't know this person, but the JG method, like, I can hardly get people to talk to me because I challenge them on a presuppositional level. They don't want to talk about those things, which those things are always relevant in a worldview conversation, in a philosophical or theological discussion.
Oh, I thought they were referring. I revoked my laughter. I thought they were referring to the CEO killing, and then they were making it about you. I didn't know that. It's still kind of funny.
Well, I don't even know who that is. Yeah, I don't even know who that is.
I was thinking of there was some guy who killed some CEO of a medical corporation, and he had like the thing that some 3-letter word thing written on the something, and everyone like made a meme about it, and I thought he was a meme. I think maybe he is, but I don't know. I'm not paying attention. I just thought it was from that, but I'm saying it was about you, so I guess he's saying that's your type of MO for debates.
I mean, I'm not even really a debater, because what I've been pointing out to you today and in other days is that when you start challenging the foundations, the conversation doesn't just ensue. It needs to be worked out, right?
I think I would fit the term instigator or a questioner or something like that, whatever they call that, like skeptic, I think, or whatever they call it. I forget the actual term. I like to question more. I'm definitely Christian, but I like to question. Like again, that's even in that, that's a problem in just saying that nowadays, because again, I recognize the disgustingness of parasocial relationships. So when one truly knows God, they know God, but when one can just say, "I'm a Christian," are you truly a Christian or are you not? Are you just saying it like that? And that's the problem with like OSAS and free grace, for example, because you can get very parasocial relationship where Christ goes to you and says, "I never knew you." And that's the issue, is that you can think you have a relationship with someone because of the things that you do, and you don't. And it's not even there. And that's like the best and worst type of awareness I think I have about the Christian faith. And yet the atheist would say that the parasocial relationship is because there's no evidence of that deity being there. And that's their ultimate like they're winning grace, but also it just shows that there is also in another parasocial relationship with God. Because they have a negative one, but it gets into semantics.
What are you saying? A parasocial relationship?
Yeah. It's
So,
parasocial relationships are one-sided. It's like often think stalker and celebrity, where the celebrity, they can either know about the stalker or not, but the person's just fixated and focused on this one person, thinking like, "Oh yeah, I know this person. We talked, we interacted once. We're like chummy best friends." And that's the idea, is that there's a type of relationship that isn't there. It's imagined or built up in one's head, and that's the issue. Like it could just be not that.
wouldn't that be all relationships for a materialist or a physicalist? And wouldn't that be unaccounted for as well? Like, what would those things be physically in the physical world?
I think it's not necessarily parasocial when you have like actual relationships, like dating or something like that. But again, like that still
No,
goes into the
it's all the
question.
same. What I'm pointing out is the ones that
Go
you
ahead. Yeah,
think
maybe
are,
I'm misunderstanding.
the ones that you think are solid and not parasocial, like extreme, like you have a love fantasy with a celebrity. They still fall in the same category from a physicalist or a materialist perspective, because they're all just, well, how are they accounted for physically? First of all, they're going to say that it's something happening and something going on in the gray matter, making you perceive that there's something that's connecting you that can't be accounted for empirically. What's the argument going to be when you challenge it physically?
I think physically it would just, yeah, I think you were right. It would just probably go to that brain matter, chemical reactions.
So it
And then
can't
what
have
we
any
do with
meaning,
those.
value, and it can't have any intrinsic meaning, value, or purpose. Those would also be ideas imposed on
Okay.
whatever's happening in the material, right?
What do you mean by intrinsic or whatever meaning
Well,
and value? Like
intrinsic meaning, value, and purpose, when we look at the scriptures, that man is created in the image of God. He has meaning on this earth and a purpose in his life. When you're dealing with a physicalist or a materialist, they think everything is matter and motion, so they don't have the information to point out that anything is intrinsically valuable or meaningful or purposeful. It just is what it is, what it appears to be. When they bring in meaning, value, and purpose, it's going to be extrinsic. They're just applying their own opinion or preference.
See, that's where I was going to ask you, because that's what I'm trying to get at. Because if we're asking things outside the internal and about the external, then wouldn't it still be valued because it actually it is the case? Which again, if it isn't, would it be better for it to not be the case that people are here talking, even if there isn't a God, right? I guess that's the ultimate. Like, is the value of it actually being within itself? Like, does it need a mind for the value to be there? For example, is a diamond still valuable as a diamond with no humans to mine it and no human mind to comprehend the diamond before people knew about it, right? So that's why I'm kind of saying, like, is it the value still, as we call it, value, still there because the thing is there, whether there's a mind behind it or not? In this case, that mind.
You have to have a concrete worldview in order to make this work. By the way, like in order for me to even have a meaningful conversation with you, I sort of need to know where you stand. If that makes sense.
Well, me, I told you, I stand like I'm just trying to use that. Like I play atheist ball game, right? I can play in the atheist court, no problem, because that's how I think things. But I still think that there's a God above all,
Well,
and whose spirit, who's created everything. Who like I can try to explain the omniscience and how each of each of the omnis are very important to the how do I want to put God as the creator? I guess the monad, I think, is what people call it, the uncaused cause, whatever. Like God needs to have these things in order to even be, because without those things,
well, I
it
don't know
ceases
about
to
that
be
because
God.
you're going to go into a sovereign God that's essence is beyond the human or the creature's experience. We can never fully know the mind of God. And talk about what he needs to be in place. Don't you think that might be an overstep into vain philosophy that's outside of the scripture?
No. Let me explain why. Because we
It's in
often
the
think of
scripture?
these. I think we often think of these things as human terms, like you just said. We can't know the mind of God, and I think that's actually accurate. But that doesn't mean we don't know the spirit of God. And the
We can't
spirit
fully
of
know
God,
it.
I think we can, because again, it in scriptures it tells us who the sevenfold spirit is, how to obtain that sevenfold spirit, and how to have that spirit dwell within you. So in this way, we know God. We may not know his omniscience level, but we know God. And knowing God in that instance is more important than understanding the way we understand our mind. Because God is spirit. As much as we compare him to mine and our greatest, because that's what he gave us, right? It's what we gave us to reason and to know him. But again, it's a tool to know something else. It's not the knowing thing. So we know his spirit with our mind, but we need to understand the spirit first. Sorry for going long there.
Well, I think the idea is that we can never fully know the mind of God. So
Agreed. Yeah.
I think what happens is we try to, those who have philosophical and theological prowessness on a constant basis, they want to just know more and more. And you get to points where you just can't know. And you just have to let that be the case. You're never going to know the full mystery of God.
See, I
think
sorry.
Well, I know I paused, but I think some people just try to fill in the blanks there. But I find it interesting that you refrain from saying that you presuppose God, but I still think you do. If you don't mind me pressing you on that for a minute.
As much as I can make the presuppositional argument, I can't do it, and I can't by definition. I have to say I agree with the presuppositional argument because it's inherently the case. I cannot say that I don't presuppose God. The way I view it, though, it says if God has always been a thing and God has always been indwelling with us, and for all I know, I've potentially had. It goes into like a weird solipsistic relationship with God. And so if that's always been the case, then there's a time where God did not know me in that instance. And so this way I was known. And if I'm known, then that's already key to the establishment of the relationship. For example, it's like when God, and this is a challenging knowing the mind of God. I said this yesterday. God knows everything. So is it really a sacrifice when he tells Abraham to go give up his kid if he knows his kid's not going to die? He's God. He knows everything. Right? And then atheists blow up this omniscience and act like the dude knows. He literally is. He's God. Right? And that's one of the things that get at me. Like, you can understand these things when you come to understand God. And you can, it's just a matter of, but then again, that's what comes into question. But go ahead again. I'm rambling a little bit.
Well, when I think of questions like that, the idea of partial limitation of power comes in. Can an all-knowing, all-powerful God, why couldn't can't he compartmentalize and limit his powers in different degrees, in different dimensions, if he wills to? It's very complicated. You can make it complicated. You can't really get an answer though.
Well, that's actually really you got to have a will in order for anything to have motion, because how does anything move unless it decides to move? Because if it's, you get what I'm saying? Like,
well, because the wind moves things that don't decide to move. I guess I would answer. Pressure moves things don't decide to move.
I'm sorry.
Lighter than the pressure.
When I said that, I was meaning like in the first causal move, like the Big Bang, not like as we know it in our day to day. My bad. I was referring back to original movement, like the very first cause of movement. How do you move something unless it's you decide to move or something else moves you? So what moved the Big Bang if it's not self-created? And whatever moved the Big Bang, that would be God.
Yeah, I mean, I could go for that. But back to if you do in fact presuppose God, what guides you away from the strength of arguing in such a manner? Because I'm convinced that would be the strongest argument, that you're arguing for the preconditions necessary of all reality, and you're arguing the impossibility of the contrary.
Maybe it's just the fact that I take knowledge base and knowing to be different. So whenever I think people say they presuppose God, it seems to me like they cut off the idea of knowing God. Like, I had presupposed God, but now I know God. I knew God before. You see, that's what I'm talking about. It goes into knowing, because you knew God to presuppose God. You knew God. Somehow you knew it, right? To me, it's like,
I think you're saying the same thing.
Go ahead.
I think you're just exchanging the word knowledge for presupposing.
That might be the case.
I'm not sure, because it sounds like you might be saying something mystical when you say knowing God. I know God. Like what? What are you saying there? Like, what is the distinction between you knowing God and somebody else?
You know what? I to be honest, I don't know if I can make that distinction, because I would actually put it on the same type of relationship, which again doesn't do me due diligence, but the same way someone knows, a schizophrenic knows that their person may be there or may not be there. Like, it depends on that type of relationship. But that, I believe, comes with the whole doubt and being an atheist, right? So that's like to me, that's also a battle of internal self that one struggles with, of identity. And so you're struggling with identity at that point. And again, what Christ says about dying daily, becoming new in faith, and you were these things, and stumbling, but also repenting in that stumbling to become a Christian in your walk, so to speak. And so like that's kind of where I take it, is like, it's that knowledge base to where if you think that you're sick, you know that you need healing, like if you're aware of it, right? Like, you have it, you don't know what it is, what type of illness, but you know that there's a sickness there. Like I said, it's a terrible way to describe it. But then again, I think it's also the most beautiful, because Christ did say he'd come to heal. And again, if there's this identity of atheist and faith, then shouldn't I be healed if God is true of one or the other, either way? But yeah, that's a nice segue for both minds to think of the atheist and the Christian. Which one needs to be healed? Which one needs to die less, your atheist mind or your Christian mind? Or whatever, religious mind, I guess, not necessarily Christian, but yeah, sorry for explaining it weird all the time.
Well, when you take a position, what is the argument that you use? Do you have like a simplified form of argument that you use? I mean, you seem to refuse the transcendental argument. So I'm interested in why that is, but like, is there something in place of it that you think is more efficient or effective?
I don't know. I haven't done debate.
Well, you're critiquing them all the time. You need to have an established position, don't you? Because
I think
even as a critiquer up here saying, "Oh, he's doing this, he's doing that," if someone like me comes in and says, "Well, Tog, how do you know he's wrong?" Because you're certainly implying it in the way you're speaking about it. Then we're going to get into epistemology and ethics, which
at that point,
Yeah,
at that point, I'll just go to. Well, it really doesn't matter upon my faith if it makes God's real or not, because ultimately God is real or God isn't. Right, but that to me that answers the question.
I'll just say something that's irrelevant to get out of that scenario. That's what you just brought forth.
No, because ultimately it's not up to me whether that individual accepts or doesn't accept God, because my life is my life, and kind of like what Elonia, like I don't have to answer to anyone's like questions unless it's like a formal debate.
No. You're going into like you're running away.
I'm not trying to run, like I said, unless it's like a
you
are.
You're saying like, if that happens, then I'll just do this. I'll just do A. If that happens, I'll just do B.
I don't think I should. Like I said, I don't think I should waste my time.
Oh, it's a waste of time.
Yes, because if you're just sitting there trying to explain someone, and again, the way I'm thinking, if it's another Christian, then that's just fine. That's just like whatever, iron sharpening iron. If it's an atheist, then the problem is with God, not with me. But likewise, if my faith is no good and I'm just like a walking heretic, then that's between me and God as well, just as much that
if you're going to say that's between you and God, when does something you do become not between you and God? Because heretical behavior can turn out in your personal life, in your social life with your neighbors and so forth. Why are you discriminating certain things, saying that's between you and God and no one else is included there? What's the distinction you're making?
I think it goes to each and every person's accountability. So like when we're talking about this debate, that's what I mean by that. Like if we're going to get into those type of arguments, it's better for them to either seek God themselves and not come to me, because again, I don't want to deal with that. And if I don't want to deal with that, why should I, if it's just going to get into this heated emotional argument where I'm trying to suppress higher emotions that are coming out, and it's just like, it's no good. But again, I haven't really been in debates. Like I've been around the community, but I think I've been in like one or two debates with people that I've done, like with Richard. I think I've done a couple on Knox, just again like open room debate styles, but no formal like debate where
I know what I'm saying though is when you're pointing out that somebody's wrong in any capacity, informationally, behaviorally, whatever you're pointing at, you can be challenged on how you know right from wrong. You can be challenged metaethically, right? So from a Christian standpoint, you have an answer for that, and why there are things that are right and wrong. Now, the atheist, on the other hand, what are they referring back to ultimately?
Recursions of loops and cycles repeated by behavioral patterns sent before mankind of monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, vicious circularity. We never really get to the ultimate. There is no ultimate, which lands them in just being some form of self, reasoning autonomously through sense experience, their feelings. Feelings. Oh. That's their ultimate.
I was going to add on to that, but in the same breath, it goes like with the Bible, with obedience and disobedience, and whatever path they take leads to the circles that are going to happen in their life. And that's the parallel in which, ironically enough, they can't run away with the Bible. So you're either obedient to the things you learn from or disobedient. And when disobedience happens, we can say that this is wrong, bad, and evil stems from it. Depending on, again, you can't necessarily call it good,
you don't think there's a reality in place, pre-established.
Hold up. Go ahead. Thank you. Yeah, go ahead.
So, as a believer, you don't think there's a pre-established reality in place prior to you even coming into the world about what you ought to do or not do regarding interactions with people, how you handle information, how you behave when no one's looking. You don't think that's already in place. You think you're creating that as you go and establishing that for yourself as a believer.
As a believer, yeah, I think so. I'd say that with free will.
Hello.
Hey, midnight.
Hey, so you're establishing your own ethical framework as you go.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the environment an individual finds themselves in. Yeah.
So if
If
you
you're
land
talking
yourself,
about, if you're talking about, hold up, if you're talking about like just me, then I would say, I think every child does that. Other than like the God being like, I don't think God micromanages us essentially. If that like when it comes to like, I don't think God's micromanaging, going into like people's law books and doing the laws of the nations like that. I don't think like that's the case. But I do think God's just sovereign and sovereign in the eye in the sky. At the present moment, with the Spirit indwelling and the Spirit enabling us to do the good works of the Lord.
you were saying you establish your own ethical framework over time, that it depends on your environment. If you land on an island that's cannibalistic versus an island that's not cannibalistic, neither scenario is right or wrong. It just is what it is on the island. Is that your perspective? Is that a biblical perspective?
I think so.
Really?
Yeah. At that point, it's to eat or be eaten, and who's to say? I mean, that God even said that freaking people were going to be eating each other as a consequences of actions. You can't say that God decreed these things would happen. Like he said, I will make humans devour one another. But he said this is the consequences of the actions of the human nature.
Well, the consequences of the action are going to be a law, are they not?
Well, that law that we're talking about isn't law written by men, but what's in our stomachs, I guess, at that point.
The law of consequence itself. Like if you engage in certain actions, there's going to be consequence. Like some people lie and get caught right away, and some people lie and don't get caught for years and so forth. And then some people never seem to get caught in certain scenarios. You don't think there's something pre-established by the Creator in effect? You think of it more like, well, it's not so much that lying is wrong. It's just if I can apply it in the right circumstances in my life and make it work, sometimes lying will be a good thing. It will be a virtuous action. Is that how you see it?
Yeah.
So what's an example of a virtuous lie?
I could go dark if you'd like. I'll go dark. A child lying to their abusive parents so they don't get another beating.
So the child says, wow, if I just lie, I escape the beating, right? This is working.
Yeah.
So what happens in the second and third and fourth try when they get caught? And then the lies are pointed out as retroactive. The previous engagements were also lies.
Well, that honestly depends on the child. I actually don't know. Like, fuck, they may stop.
Well,
They may keep going because again, they're kids. What do I don't know, man.
What I'm saying is, like, maybe the better the more common example is like the Jews in the basement, right? Like you might say it's a virtuous lie to say, no, I don't have Jews in my basement, so you spare their lives, right?
Yeah, but at the same time, you're harboring terrorists. Let's not go with that. Let's not go in that argument.
Well,
Patriotism, but yeah.
I was just gonna say, like, it seems like you're making a lie virtuous by saving somebody's life, by not turning them in. But there seems to be a law in effect about deception in general. is what I'm getting at. Because let's say that you try to lie and you don't get away with it, and now you get the Jews killed and perhaps your whole family killed.
Hey, JG, I have a question for you. Have you ever lied?
Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying here? Like, now you've got yourself in a situation where, because you've lied and you were trying to do it virtuously, not only are the Jewish families being killed, but your family's being killed as well. So just an example of the consequences of trying to make a vice virtuous and it working against you. But this goes back to my question to you, Todd. You don't think there's vice and virtue that are set, that are objective prior to the human experience? You think the creature is making up and preferring virtue and vice and good and evil based on their experience and the environment?
If the environment is absent of God, then I don't think that they're going to find God in that environment. And you'll hear atheists often say that too. If I was in another country, I would be that thing. I wouldn't be talking about Christianity such as much, but it's because it's so prevalent within our nation, which goes to show that the environmental factors play a key role in our upbringing. And again, if God's absentee father and we have just single mama ain't doing it, working hard every night by herself, and the kids are going to run out of the house and be let loose because they ain't no daddy.
You said,
let's not mention Mr. Stepdad that can come in and try to make it better but messes up. This is daddy government here. But go ahead.
well, you said prior that disobedience would be a wrong action, right? Disobedience to God.
Correct, yeah.
And what are you appealing to when you say being obedient to God? Is there certain references? Is it the commandments? Is it love in 1 Corinthians 13, 4-7? What is it that you're appealing to when you say obedience?
I would say in order to be obedient of something, you have to actually know it. So I would probably quote the Psalms where it says the beginning of wisdom is the hatred of evil. And that's speaking to the Spirit of the Lord. And so in order to understand something, you encompass it and understand everything wrong about it, understand everything good about it. Take the good with the bad. If you can't do that, then how are you ever going to understand it? And if you don't actually interact with it, then how are you ever going to know of its use? Because otherwise you're speaking from no experience, just theorizing at some point.
Let's think back about that and into the garden, right? You said to be disobedient or obedient, you have to have knowledge, right?
Right.
But Adam and Eve are told not to touch the tree, and they do not have knowledge of the tree or the consequence. They're just told to obey.
Right. And then you come, not you, I'm sorry. Then here comes along the serpent with his presuppositional, did God tell you not to eat of the fruit and then you would die? Or that you would die? How I'm paraphrasing, of course. And this is where the argument is that we have knowledge from somewhere else that's introduced to convince them to be disobedient. Like it's the lie in the beginning.
You
Like,
said
as
you
you're
said
pointing
that
out.
knowledge is needed to be obedient, but I've just given you an example of the garden.
Mm-hmm.
What knowledge did Adam need to be obedient? Did he have knowledge needed that you proclaim is needed in order to be obedient? If so, what is it? What was it?
What knowledge did Adam claim to have to be obedient?
Yeah, based on what you're saying, that
Though
to be obedient, you need knowledge. What
the experience and literally the relationship of God creating him and being with God. Again, it's interesting because people say in the Bible, anyone who sees God will die, and yet surely Adam and Eve are walking with God in the garden, and yet they're not dead, but they are sentenced to death. Same thing happens with Moses. Moses has surely seen the face of God, and then it goes, anyone who sees my face shall surely die. And yet we find Moses dead. So the death that we're speaking of does happen. It's just a matter of consequence, and again, coming to know God, I would say. So the obedience comes from the relationship with God. Disobedience comes from the adversary, which also goes into it shows how free will is there. Because if it was all deterministic, God wouldn't need them to tell them not to eat the fruit and then he wouldn't need to just circumvent and have a garden or a snake in the garden to do it. He would just automatically do it. Doesn't make no sense. It's an omnipotent being, for God's sakes, and makes no sense. Like why? Like I'd say if this guy's anything like human mind, why the hell would he waste his time like that and just get the freaking thing done? Like, I guess for us it's all drawn out. But I'm rambling on. I don't know if that's satisfactory to your question.
No. I'm just trying to figure out how to apply what
More
you
or
said
less,
to the garden.
you can chop it down to.
I don't think they had knowledge.
You can chop it down to will. They had
They
the
were
will.
just told. They're just told to obey. They just decided not to.
I would say convinced not to.
Yeah, and then they made the decision ultimately, right? Like they were
In
forced, like physically, but they were coerced in a sense.
if you look at it, Eve thought that the fruit, it would be desirable and good to eat. So the absence of what is good, the option of something better came up. This is like what it says, something about choices is the killer of joy, because she compared the word of God, the obedience of God, death, and that having knowledge of these good and evil things would be more beneficial. So there was a choice made that wasn't there for her to choose. And that's actually what did it. It was the choice that was made. So you can say in the sense, even though the serpent may have given us and shown us a free will choice, it was always given by God, because that's how much he loves us, because he doesn't lose what is his. But the serpent, being disobedient, isn't his, so the serpent is lost.
All right, you want to see what they're doing in this video? Are they about to cross-examine?
Yeah. All right, let's press play. Yeah, this is just the beginning too.
This happens when something is protected from destruction by external means. For example, a child is preserved from harm if someone prevents them from falling into a fire. In this way, God sometimes preserves things from destruction, but not all things require this kind of preservation, since some things are incorruptible by nature. There is also directly or essentially as a means of preservation, and this applies when something depends entirely on another for its very existence. In such cases, if the cause stopped acting, the thing would immediately cease to exist. All created things fall into this category. They only exist because God actively maintains them. Without God's continued action, all things would vanish instantly. There's also a difference between becoming and being. Every effect depends upon its cause, but in different ways. Some causes only bring things into existence, but do not need to sustain them afterward. For example, a builder constructs a house, but once built, the house remains standing due to the nature of its materials, wood, stone, cement, etc., not because the builder keeps working on it. Similarly, a cook heats food, but the food stays warm for a while even after being removed from the fire. However, other causes must continuously act to keep something in existence. For example, light in the air depends entirely on the presence of the sun. If the sun's light disappears, the air immediately becomes dark. Unlike the house, which remains standing due to its structure, light in the air does not persist on its own, but is entirely dependent on an external source. God is the kind of cause that must sustain his creation constantly, not just bring it into being and leave it to exist independently. If God's
Pause. I'll just pause in this real quick just to make a note. I need to go check and see if my babies are up. If my babies are up, I'm gonna go get off here and hang out with them. But I'll let this run.
Stop sustaining something, it would return to nothingness, just as air would immediately become dark if sunlight disappeared. To further clarify this idea, the text gives the following example: fire and heat. Water can absorb and retain heat from fire. Even after the fire is removed, the water remains warm for a while. This is because water has the capacity to hold the heat, even if imperfectly. In contrast, air does not retain light once the sun is gone. The moment sunlight disappears, darkness immediately takes over because light has no root in the air itself. This is used as an analogy for creation. Creatures do not contain existence within themselves as a permanent property. They need God's continual presence to remain in being. If he withdrew his sustaining power, they would instantly cease to exist, just as the air loses light when the sun is gone. Deism assumes that God is the cause of the quote.
Pause. Sorry, I came back. They're still asleep. Yay. I have odd question here. So he's talking about us and being saved and all that, right? And God's spirit, and if we're apart from God. I don't know if he actually, like, to me, it seems like he's framing this on a matter of faith and our relationship in that faith with God. So it's curious that he's talking about the life, and it makes me think, well, what about the animal life and all that life that God is sustaining? Like, do they have faith with God to make this argument? Because is this inclusive into everything? Which gets into it because, again, salvation on the
Why do you need
aspect is only for humans, right? I'm not arguing against that. I'm arguing about God's life sustainingness seems to be, he's making it sound like that's a caveat on faith, which is weird. Go ahead, JG. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm just wondering why you're getting concerned with the animals so much. Why does it make your mind
Why I'm
go?
getting concerned?
Yeah, you said it makes you think of if animals can make
Oh,
arguments.
just because of God's sustaining force and life force, because that's what I came in like half hearing, so that's what I'm saying. It sounded like to me he was making an argument about God sustaining our life through a matter of faith, and if God removed himself, unless he was speaking about just like God himself and deciding like to end it all. I kind of don't know if I'm misrepresenting. I'm not trying to, of course.
I think he's about to just point out something about deism here. So,
All right. Also, before I forget, thank you for that decent hourly conversation. I really appreciate it.
yeah, man.
Because if God were the source of existence, being itself, then subsequently, God would be the sustainer of the universe, as existence itself simultaneously depends on him. One cannot be both the sustainer, one giving the substance, and the one being sustained. Things cannot sustain their own being, and only their becoming, because they are not the source of their own being. Ultimately, like I said, the focus of this debate is about God's relation in terms of sustaining the universe. I am arguing positively against this watchmaker sort of idea that deism holds to. Deism being a proponent of a impersonal, inactive God cannot possibly be the case, as I've laid out here.
Yeah, there it is.
In my previous argument. So, just to reiterate.
Go ahead.
That's the key point right there, the impersonal God and the knowledge. You're just trying to argue that you think that somebody came along and created everything and walked away, but it goes no further than that. It's just an idea. Like what are you going to establish about this God? How are you going to do that? How would you have that knowledge? It's really as far as it goes, but I haven't really listened to many people go into deism in specifics, but I mean, I'd listen to it, but it's just going to be the same question. Like, how do you know that? If it's just going to be a feeling or Gnosticism or mysticism, then, it's anyone's guess.
Well, rationally, they could argue chosen people.
From what source?
From their own source. I mean, it's no different from the Israel claiming that God of the Bible to the pagan nations, that their God is the God of the universe. Is all that I'm saying.
No different. Okay, so if someone challenges that they have knowledge of a God that they don't know personally, well, you have to grant that because you can't say to the contrary. Is that right?
I'm just saying. Well, in the matter of them having knowledge, you said, right, of this deistic God, being the absentee, right? That's the thing is what do we define as absentee? Created, left no trace, or created but left trace of himself being the author, which would be a little bit different.
How do you have knowledge of an impersonal God? Is the question.
How do you by someone who has personal knowledge of that deity? Because even in the
So you don't know, you don't have
sense-
knowledge of him, but somebody that
Go
does is
ahead.
going to tell you about it, and then you're going to
Yeah,
obtain
it
knowledge.
just to me it really much just mimics the Bible. If anyone just like in all honesty, I'm just gonna say that.
So it's the same.
It
It's a
comes
level.
again back.
It's a level playing ground. Then, if you're in an argument with somebody like this, you're not going to
Right.
take the fact that they don't know, because you're like, well, I also don't know, or I'm on the same level as them.
Yeah.
So you don't know, and they don't know about the fundamental questions of reality.
Well, no.
But then you're going to go in and argue about things that you see and smell.
This is where I think it all depends on the deistic mind frame, because what do they, you're right, if without the impersonal, because we have the personal, the Bible, the piggybacking of our families, all that, etc., that goes back to whenever. The deists would probably, I'd imagine their argument leans more towards like things of science and evolution and those type of natural wonders.
What are they going to
And
argue about those things? It's just going to be this.
I wouldn't know.
It's not going to really be.
Piggyback. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
It's not going to be a part of the question, the argument, to satisfy the question of how they have knowledge of an impersonal God. They can point to the trees and hurricanes and the wondrous oceans and so forth and so on, but it's not going to get them to personal knowledge of an impersonal God. So that would just be a red herring.
Well, so I guess in some way, I think, like, again, some people go into the same argument some Christians do, the fine-tuning argument of the universe and how things are pulled off. And so this somehow designates some type of creator or mind behind this process in order to put these positions in position.
So where does that argument get you to? A generic idea of God?
I guess the deistic idea is what they would come to, right? I wouldn't know.
They wouldn't know either.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, if they contribute that, like, again, at that point, I think it just goes back to, the universe is God or something akin to that. But we don't know the universe, even though we live inside it, or however that works. I don't know. I'm just making an assumption.
It doesn't sound like the deists can get past how they have knowledge of an impersonal God, and whatever flows in the conversation about this impersonal God would be in question with the same question, would it not? They'd just be saying things and never satisfying how they have knowledge of this impersonal God. See, the way I see it is he's stuck there, but do you see something differently there?
No. If there's no witness to this non-witness God, how can you say there was a witness, right? Which is why I said you would have to rely on someone who knew this God in order to gain the information that this God even existed.
Okay, so in this scenario, you're like, well, you're kind of understanding what I'm saying. So you're saying to this person, well, look, if we're going to continue, you got to at least have a witness. And then he calls in, I don't know, Richard Madsen. He's like, no, Richard saw him, and he told me about him.
I hope Richard's doing well. I haven't heard from him for a while. I could always email him.
Maybe I don't need to use him as an example, but you get the idea. Like, you just pull in a witness, somebody has personal revelation, and then all of a sudden, based on your worldview, the Christian worldview, they're relevant. How?
Relevant? What do you mean? In what way?
How? Well, like you're talking to somebody from a Christian perspective, like they're saying, oh, I think it's a deistic God, and I'm saying, Tog, ask him about how he has knowledge of this impersonal God. And you're like, yeah, how do you have knowledge of an impersonal God? And he's like, well, somebody told me.
There's no witness to it. Yeah, someone.
So now you're like, okay, well, maybe I'll listen to you now since you got somebody who will back you. So where are you going to go with that? Is what I'm asking you. I'm bringing your scenario, into fruition here. I'm trying to. You got a guy telling you, well, he knows because his friend knows. Like, is that really going to give him any momentum in bringing forth an argument to you now?
I wouldn't know. Like I said, in that argument, I can't argue the other person's side right now. I wouldn't know what they would have to argue at this point. I would argue that
if they say something convincing enough, you're gonna be like, well, that sounds pretty good.
No, I was gonna say I would imagine that the knowledge that they would argue would be in their eyes sufficient enough as something to produce to say this is how they could know their God.
An
Like
impersonal
kind of like how we kind of like how we do with our I guess a better question is what do they gain? There's not that they need.
There is not a better question. The question that's being proposed is the best question. How do you have knowledge of an impersonal God? You're trying to put on your atheist hat or your deistic hat, right? And say, well, I guess I could try to borrow from the Christian perspective and make that work. But see if you can actually do that, because I don't think you're making anything work here. You're saying you can get your friend and say, your friend is a witness suddenly to knowledge of an impersonal God. How does that work? It's the same problem. You're just transferring it to another person and trying to add numbers, which is moving toward an ad populum appeal, right?
Potentially. But I would say also that, like, as much as they would know, what does knowledge bring them in knowing this deistic God is what I was saying. Like, the knowledge brought forth. Well, no, because like in this way, our knowledge, it's like a big, so you know the God of creation that isn't the God of the Bible, right? You know the God of creation. So what? What does that mean? Like, to me, that's like different than saying, I know this volcano exists, bruh, because there's no ultimate. There's no, like, with the God of Christianity, he made things and then he reconciled the downfall of what an adversary did that was disobedient, and he reconciled all that to himself for those people who would be reconciled to be saved and continue on with him because he is forever. With the deistic God, you don't even get a forever God. You just get a God that made something. It doesn't even have the omnis. So that's what I'm saying. Like, what is okay? So what? You have a deistic God. Suck my balls. What does that mean?
No,
what does that mean?
Suck my balls is not the scholastic way to handle this, though, right?
I know. I just wanted to throw that out there for the audience.
It's better if you just say, "Look, I'm just going to stay with you until you tell me how you get personal knowledge of an impersonal God." You know, go grab your friends.
Thanks, Doug.
Go grab your friends or make a lifeline call. I'll just wait, because until you do that, whatever you claim about this God, this alleged God, is going to be based on no knowledge and nothing personal. And why would I sit here and just grant that? How would that do any of us justice, anybody listening, to just grant that? That's where I would stay.
Right.
Would I be justified in doing so?
I would actually compare remember how I said that schizophrenic type of how I view it? I would view that more of the deistic God, like the schizophrenic idea, analogy that I used with this. So
you want to make them feel like they're schizophrenic? You're going to psychologize them?
No, I'm just saying that analogy that like they're having a parasocial relationship with actually something that isn't even there in this, or something that they can't even know that is there because there's no evidence that it is there.
Do you understand the actual claims?
Yeah, that's a more abrasive. That's a
JG,
more.
Are you saying that? Are you saying that the person? What?
Hold on a sec. I was talking to Tog.
I was talking when you started talking. So, but you don't seem to.
I'm sorry. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Let him finish, and then I'll let you, because let him finish what he has to say. And then
you just jumped in the conversation all of a sudden. So you want to go
because you're too afraid to speak with me. So that's fine.
I'm sorry. Who are you?
But you don't seem to understand that. So you're saying that you need a subjective experience.
He's still interrupting, even after he's been asked.
You're still talking after you were told that you can talk after I'm done.
No, I told you can talk after he's done.
Yeah, you got it backwards, dude.
Oh, yeah, I totally misunderstood.
Sorry about that.
Chong,
That's
it's
my bad.
going to be more aggressive to go into somebody's.
I have
psyche.
missed these streams, honestly. I have.
Dude, come on. Fuck, dude.
It's going to be more aggressive to go into like pointing out that a person sounds schizophrenic. Don't you think?
No, because I mean, a lot of people have these parasocial relationships with people that are even around them, and that's all that I'm saying. Like you can have something there and still have a one-sided freaking thing. It doesn't, and that's the thing. They have an axiom. Their God is reduced to an actual axiom, and that's it. We can say that they think, but ours isn't, because of the paramount amount of witnesses and the, I would say the history of it that's written,
Well, I
and
mean-
people neglect that. But that's just, again, that's the battle of semantics, because people would say, well, you're in the same boat there, Christian. This is your camp. You're speaking of yourself.
Well, in a sense, yeah.
All right,
I
but
would
hold
say that-
up. Let's end it, because it's like I said, you said you wanted to address that. It's Hillary's turn to talk. I want to stay true. Sorry to respond. I should have kept it straight. Go ahead, but then we
Yeah,
can go back to whatever.
JG keeps saying that unless he has a subjective evidence of an objective, that the objective doesn't exist. It doesn't matter whether if the God is personal or not. If the person witnessing is personal, if I am a person, then I can still have a personal experience of a non-personal thing. I can look at a volcano and say the volcano's there. It doesn't have to be, the volcano doesn't have to have personhood. And
You-
this
you would-
the parasocial relationship in the schizophrenic, I think you got that kind of backward. It would be interesting, though, if you want to talk about deism, for you to talk to a deist, but you're too afraid to speak with me or come to my channel, and you mute me on your channel. So you really don't want to know these things.
Are you saying, are you a deist?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
so when you're asked the question about personal knowledge, you're saying you don't have to have knowledge of the God.
Real quick,
No,
let me get in this
I'm
pause. Let
saying-
me get in this pause. Midnight, I muted you just in case you ever speak and peek up. I just wanted to let you know I muted you. Go ahead, guys. Sorry.
I'm
Yeah,
saying
I
that
know. Sorry,
it's-
go ahead.
as long as I am a person, I can have personal knowledge of a non-personal being like a volcano. You seem to be saying that I cannot have experiential knowledge of a volcano unless the volcano has personhood.
No, I'm not. I'm asking you what your personal knowledge of an impersonal God is.
Well, we can see the wind blow. We can see the universe. We can look at patterns in the universe. All this is basically God speaking. And I want to make sure that you don't misunderstand what a deist is. A deist isn't a clockmaker. That's a determinist. So if
You're
you have any
saying-
questions about what deism is, go
you're
ahead and
saying
ask
you-
me. Don't just assume.
So you're saying wind and volcanoes gave you personal knowledge of this impersonal God?
Yeah.
That's it?
No, you asked for examples. I'm saying everything that I observe reflects back to that original source.
So you look at the stars and the trees and the lakes, the ocean, whatever, and then you have knowledge of an impersonal God. That's it.
And humans and mathematics and
Ducks.
biology and physics.
So you're just saying God, some kind of God exists because it's self-evident? I'm just not grasping what you're saying. If there's an argument there.
Well, no, I'm not making an argument. I'm answering your question.
Well,
And
if
yes,
you can't make an argument of how your God exists.
I'm not going to make an argument about how it exists. I'm answering your question.
Well, that is my
That-
question now. How do you know this God exists?
If you want me to, then I'd be happy to on my channel. But
your
if you're too
channel?
afraid, if you're too afraid, then you're not going to get
I
everything.
mean,
that
it
you
sounds
want.
like you're being afraid because you're running away, not answering the question.
No, I'm not running away. I'm just
Well,
not
then
going to
just
give you
answer the
everything that you
question and
want.
stop calling me a
Pause.
coward.
How can you say running away in your channel when both of you are dual streaming from my channel and he's literally on your channel right now? And so how can you even say that when he's on your channel? You're contradicting yourself, man. Come on.
No, but he.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know what this
I
is
may be
about. Like
replaying it, But anyway, the base issue is you're not going to get everything that you want.
Get
Tough.
everything I
That's just
want.
the way the
Like,
life is. That's the way the life is.
so you're saying you won't make an argument of, you can't make an argument of why your God exists. But
No, that's not it.
You won't though.
Correct.
Why is that?
Because you're not going to get everything that you want.
Well, I mean, there's other people listening. You've been speaking of a God. Why don't you just?
And I've spoken to them about it. They have my arguments.
Okay. Cool. Maybe somebody will tell me along the way.
Mm-hmm. Any other questions?
Well, I mean, it's a fundamental question. I don't know why I would continue with somebody who's not willing to answer the fundamental question.
Oh, you mean why would a person engage with someone who doesn't want to talk about their worldview?
How would you talk to somebody and not talk about your worldview?
My
the way that
question
you
is
do.
like
People's
going back to
philosophies?
the you can't always get what you want. Is that the same way with the deistic God that doesn't want anything to do? Like we could be the byproduct of, as often deists will throw creation as. So how do we, like, what justice is there knowing a deistic God that has no care for you at all? Like, what's the point? Deistic God. Okay,
Yeah, there
still
wouldn't be.
Tuesday.
There
So
wouldn't be
why-
any justice. The only
what
justice
do
would
we
be
do?
whatever his creation makes.
So that's what I'm saying. So what does it do for us in this instance?
The deistic God doesn't care about how we feel and what we want. It's not a coin operated machine that you can just punch whatever number you want.
Okay, how do you know that? How do you know
Right,
that if you have
yes.
you have no personal relationship with this God?
Exactly.
I have inferred it from a totality of my life experience.
It doesn't give him knowledge. It just gives him experience.
Knowledge is a justified true belief, right?
You had the right question, Tog. He's giving you a non-answer.
No, I'm answering directly. And if you think that justified true belief is not knowledge, then you tell me what knowledge is.
You said you had no knowledge of your God.
No, I didn't.
He said it was a totality of experience that he's collected throughout his life.
Exactly.
And I'm pondering that because it's just, well, I'm trying to think of what question to ask, and I don't know what question to ask after that. Because it's like, okay,
anything you ask would be better than what JG would, because all he does is throw out, falsehoods. If you aren't able to listen, you're never going to be able to learn.
What falsehood?
You claim that I had no knowledge when I explained a vast amount of knowledge.
Justified true belief. You have justified true belief in an impersonal God that you have no knowledge of.
No, you say no knowledge of. If you think that experience is not knowledge, then that's your belief. But you can't just claim it as fact.
There's a lot that goes into. There's many things that go into experience. The assumptions and presuppositions and prior knowledge that go into the experience itself. So just prior to say knowledge. Prior knowledge. Like presuppositions, like you assume things in your experience, right? You assume consistency.
And then you test them. You test those assumptions.
You assume that you ought to be consistent, right?
I either am consistent or I'm not. That's not an assumption. I don't assume you're going to be consistent.
So you don't think someone should be consistent?
I have observed that you are inconsistent.
And you don't think that's a good thing?
Good and bad is simply preference statements.
So your impersonal God can't tell you what a right decision is or a right action is? It's just a personal preference?
You're asking me the color of cherry. That doesn't make any sense. Can he tell me what's right or wrong?
That's a good color.
Those are preference statements. Can he tell me what I believe to be good, which could be different from what you believe to be good?
I'm saying if you choose, for instance, to disregard or not believe in your God, or change your mind tomorrow, or speak against him and deny him this afternoon, there's no right or wrong action that can be taken in this worldview of this particular God. It's just a preference, a thing that you happen to be doing.
Correct.
So you can't really do right or wrong in your worldview.
That doesn't make any sense. If I feel it is right, it is right. If you feel that it's wrong, then it's wrong for you. So
in other
it
words,
doesn't-
there's no established right or wrong. It's just you're just making up as you go along. It's
no,
just your
you don't
preference.
seem to understand the words that I'm using.
I
Right
do.
and wrong is a preference. So if I like it, it's good. If you dislike it, it's bad. But there is no standard. Everything is good. You know, if a black hole swallows a star, is that good or bad?
So
Does
in
your
your
God tell you if that's
right
good or
in
bad?
your worldview, you would say that you don't really have anything established that can tell you correct or incorrect, right or wrong, except a subjective preference. You have no way of knowing what is true or false, and even if you do have that information, you can't even point to it saying following what is true and being consistent is the right way to go, because that's only a preference. If it suits you to deny what is true and create falsehoods and you benefit from it, well, then that's right for you.
You're making nonsensical, contradictory statements,
I'm not.
but
Giving you
some of them,
examples.
some
I'm
of them
giving
are
you-
accurate.
There is
Some of
there
them
is no right or wrong behaviorally or even how you handle information.
Well, you just said it. If I do it, it makes it right. It's kind of like a divine command theory. If I do it, it's right for me, and if I don't do it, it's wrong for me.
Well, you can't even be right about your argument.
I can't.
You just get me to
I
agree
can't
with you.
appreciate my own argument.
No, you
You
can't. You can't bring it anywhere. If someone stops you and questions you metaethically, you're saying there's no right and wrong.
But you're not making any sense. No, it's right because I did it. Are you saying that I didn't do it? That metaethically someone can question whether I did what I did?
It's right because you did it. Did
Yep.
what?
Whatever action I took.
Stomped on a
was the
baby.
correct one.
So if you say you stomp on a baby, it's right because you say so. If you help an old lady,
Are you saying that are you saying that the person didn't when you observed that they did?
What I'm trying to say to you is you stomp on the baby, you help the old lady across the street. You're not doing things that are right or
So
wrong.
what you're really wanting is for me to please someone other than myself, correct?
Is to please someone other than yourself.
That seems to be what you're saying when you keep saying right or wrong, and establish. What you're wanting me to do is to please some other entity other than myself. And you consider that other entity the basis of right and wrong rather than the individual, which is what I'm saying.
No, I'm not saying I want you to do anything. I'm saying if you
That's
can't
actually
if you can't establish what right and wrong are other than your preferences.
No, you just said
Then
it. You can't say that A is A. No, I can. I can say that A is A. That's all.
I'm not talking about basic identity here.
But you are. You're saying you can't establish that's right or wrong other than your feelings, but yet the feelings are what makes it right or wrong.
How do you have knowledge that the feelings are what makes it right or wrong?
But definitionally, it's an ontology. It's a tautology.
Definitionally, the feelings that a human experiences make them right or wrong. You're saying it's a truth by definition? Are you kidding me?
I'm saying that is the definition under the Stanford Encyclopedia of whatever philosophy. The right and wrong is a preference.
Your feelings are determined what is right and wrong because of the
preferences.
Philosophy encyclopedia.
You're getting caught up in the term feelings,
I was gonna say.
and I don't think that you have really established what a feeling is. I'm saying preferences.
I'm saying feelings as in the
right and
sense.
wrong.
I'm saying the sense experience, empiricism, the feelings.
Uh-huh.
You saying the determination being made of what right and wrong are based on your feelings. You're saying that's backed up by the Encyclopedia of Philosophy, and therefore it's
and are you making the counterclaim that if you observe something to happen, that means it did not happen?
No.
That seems to be what you're saying.
It's not the counterclaim. I'm trying to figure out how you're establishing that your feelings will determine what right or wrong is, backing it up with a philosophy encyclopedia.
No, it's the definition of right or wrong. First, we have to say what the definition of right or wrong is. And the definition of right and wrong is a preference statement. And then either that did happen or it didn't. And if you're saying
so, the statement right or wrong is the statement right or wrong is a preference statement is also a preference.
Exactly. Thank
So
you.
you never establish anything that is true.
What do you mean true? Give me a definition of true.
True in reality, objectively true, unchanging, immutable, invariant. You're saying everything is subjective,
Well, what
including
is
this,
true? Give
including
me
the
an
statement.
example of something that's true.
Jesus Christ is the truth in my worldview.
So he was never born, he never died, he never spoke.
I'm not saying all that.
You did say all that. He's unchanging, invariable. That's what you said.
Invariant.
Well, whatever.
Sure, invariable. Look, but look, what I'm saying to you is like, if
So
you don't
you
have
agree. You agree that you have nothing that's true.
No, I'm saying my ultimate authority is God.
Well, now you're saying God before you said Jesus.
Jesus is God.
Oh, so now you're establishing identity. But you said that doesn't ever change. So you agree that Jesus was never born, he never died, and never spoke, but yet he's unchanging.
You're saying I agreed that Jesus never spoke. What are you talking about?
Exactly. You said that was your claim that
Anyway,
he was
dude,
unchanging.
I made a claim about what I think is true in my worldview. So just
and then the
slow down,
example,
because we haven't established anything that is true in your worldview. You're saying
yes,
it's
exactly. Exactly. That's my point. You can't define it.
You seem to be saying that all is subjective.
Okay, you say that something is true that is by any definition, observably not unchanging. So you can't actually show anything in your worldview that's true. You want me to come up with something that's true based on your faulty definition. So I can literally, under your definition, name anything whatsoever, and that is true under your definition.
Wrong. You can't just. You haven't even established what is true versus what is false.
Exactly. That's my point. It's up to you to
it's not up to me.
I asked you for a definition.
What do you mean it's up to me?
I asked you for a definition.
Yeah, if you're rejecting Jesus, if you're rejecting Jesus Christ as the truth, then you have to give a counterexample.
No.
A counterclaim to why he isn't the truth, but you can't establish truth or falsity.
I am. Are you listening? You said that he's unchanging. And yet I have established that he was born, he did die, and he did speak. So
you didn't establish that.
Are you denying it?
I'm denying from your worldview that you've established it.
No, not from my worldview.
Of course, it's from your worldview. Reality. What are you talking about?
So you deny the Bible, and you deny Jesus, and you deny God. We've got that established. Anything else?
You're being a sophist.
No, I'm going off of you. You wanted to say true. I wanted a definition and an example. You then defined it and then gave me an example that totally went against your definition. So you're totally incomprehensible. Are you sure that you believe in God? Because you don't seem to be very capable of it.
If you're going to deny that Jesus Christ is the truth, all you need to do is establish why that is.
No, I am. I'm establishing that example totally contradicted the definition that you gave. So you define Jesus is impossible, and you have shown us by example that you have no truth.
Wrong, dude.
Yeah, anybody can listen.
You're not even establishing. I mean, you're just trying to.
I have established it by you.
So you've established how you knew it. Okay, good. So you've established.
No, I established how you know it. You know that you have no truth because of the way you
keep over talking.
Well, if you keep lying,
you've established what's true or false in reality based on something I did.
I asked you for a definition. I asked you for an example. Your example totally contradicted the definition that you gave. So under your likes, I have established for you that you have no truth.
So when I ask you again, for probably the fifth time, how you establish what is true versus what is false, you give a simple definition and then try to point out something you did to me. That's the game.
I'll explain it for the fifth time. The way that I established it was the Socratic method. I asked you a question.
No. This is not you establishing the truth or false based on your worldview.
Your worldview. Your worldview.
I asked you a question about your worldview, dude.
No. Oh, my worldview? I thought we were discussing your worldview.
No, my worldview, no. You don't even know what you're doing.
So you have no worldview because you have no truth, or you just have no truth because you have no worldview? Which is it?
Oh my gosh, dude. So you don't
I
know.
understand you can't keep up.
You have an impersonal God. You have knowledge of an impersonal God because of the wind in the trees.
Mhm.
And when it comes to the truth or the falsity of the matter, well, you have to talk about something I said because you don't know what the truth or falsity of the matter is, nor do you know what is
You
right
don't
or
understand
wrong
how that works.
based on
If
your
someone
impersonal
uses
God.
a word, I'll explain it to you. because
Why
you
is
have
it that
trouble
you're not?
again. I'm
Why is
explaining it to you. I'm
you're
explaining
just
it to
making
you.
this stuff
You
up?
need to
and try
listen. No, I let you make it up, and you totally screwed yourself. So what
you let
happened
me.
was
You,
you
what
used
did
a
you let
word
me
that
make
does not
up,
make.
dude?
You're right. Go ahead and talk over my answer
What
to
did
your
you? What
question,
did
and
you
then
let me?
claim that you have to ask it 5 times. Again,
This is
you claim
nonsense.
you used a word. Just shut up, then. Shut up and listen to the answer. I know that you
No,
can't
dude,
take it.
I don't
So
even know why I'm
anyway,
talking to you. I came in to talk to
because
Tog
you're a
today, and
joke.
you just
Because you're a joke. Anyway,
good
you
one.
used a word
Have a
that
good
is
day. Take care.
again.